Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. So with this question, we need to first of all count how many sides this polygon has. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 sides. And we just need to know that a 10-sided shape is a decagon. Now we are expected to know all of the names of shapes between 3 and 10 sides. So if you don't know them already, just sit down and learn them. With this question, you just need to know the names of 3D shapes. This one is called a cylinder. Whenever you have this situation where you've got two lines intersecting or hitting each other, the two angles that are created either side of the line are always going to be equal. And we call these vertically opposite angles. So A is going to equal 120 degrees. You'll normally also need to write down the fact that they are vertically opposite angles. To find the factors of 30, we're just going to write down all the factor pairs or all the pairs of numbers that multiply together to make 30. So 1 times 30 is 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Now 4 doesn't go because 30 is not in the 4 times table. 5 times 6, and we notice that if we pick 6, it's just going to be 6 times 5, it's just going to be the opposite. So the factors are all the numbers that we've just written down, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top one of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11 20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So for this question we need to convert the percentage to a decimal. So to do that we get that 8.9%. and we just divide by 100, and so that will give us 0.089, and so we get that 0.089 of normally means times in maths, so we just go times that by 457, and that will give us 40.67. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now this might surprise some people because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4 to 1, but we can show here that it's a ratio of 3 to 1. So we know that the mean is the sum of numbers over the amount. But in this question we're actually given what the mean is. We're given that that is 29. We're also given the fact that there are 4 cards, so we're given the amount. So what we can do is just get our lines in and solve this. So what we're going to do is just times both sides by 4. So we're going to do 29 times 4, which is 116. And so we know that the sum of the numbers will be 116. So all we need to do is to find the fourth card, is get that 116 and just take away the numbers that we know. And when we do that, we get the answer 26. Now you can easily check this by adding up 37, 26, 27 and 26 again, and then dividing it by 4, and you will get 29. So there's a formula for percentage increase or percentage change. And it is the change over the original amount times 100%. So to find out the change here, we're going to do the difference between 1,421 and 1,100. So we're going to do 1,421 take away 1,100, which is 321. Divide that by the original amount. So the original amount was the 1,100, and then times by 100%. And that's going to be 29.18%. To get from the length of a square to the area, we square the length. To work backwards, what we do is we square root, because the inverse of square is square root. So we've got 196, and we're going to square root it to find the length. So we work out the square root of 196, which is what number times itself is 196. And you should learn them from 1 to 15, so you should know all of the square numbers from 1 to 15. So you should know that the answer is 14. So the length therefore is 14. So to work out what the perimeter is going to be the distance around the square. So if I draw a square out, we know that each of these lengths are 14. So it's just going to be 14 times 4, which will be 56. So adjacent angles in a parallelogram add up to 180, and the reason for that is that we've got a set of parallel lines here, and both of these angles are within that set of parallel sides, so they're actually co-interior, interior or allied angles, whichever you choose to call them, and so we know that they're going to add up to 180. So we're going to do 180, take away the 61 we already have there, which is 119. So our answer is 119 degrees. So the only way of answering this question is to work out what these are as ordinary numbers. And so 7 times 10 to the power of 7 would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 9 times 10 to the power of 4 would be 90,000. So that would be 9, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we're just subtracting them like that, and so we'll get 6991000. And obviously if this is on the calculator paper, just type it into your calculator. There are no tricks here. You can't do anything with the 7 and the 9. You're not subtracting powers or anything. You're just literally typing in what it says. And there's a button on the calculator like that you will need to use. So if you don't know what that is, ask your teacher or ask someone to help you out with that. So let's look through this question to see what information we're given and what information we're looking for. So we're given the acceleration is 13 meters per second squared. We're also given the distance is 19, and we're also given the end velocity, which is v, is 34. And we're looking for the initial velocity. So which of these formulae include A, S, V and U? That's got a T in it, that's got a T in it, so it's going to be this one here. So let's write that out. V squared equals U squared plus 2AS. So that would be 34 squared equals U squared, because that's what the one we're looking for, plus 2 times 13 times 19. Okay, so let's just work these parts out. And so we've got 2 times 13 times 19, which is what, 494. And it turns into a solving part, so we're just going to solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 494 from both sides. And so we're left with 662 equals U squared. Then we're just going to square root both sides. And so square root of that is going to be 25.729 blah blah blah. And it says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 25.73. On a scatter graph, an outlier is a point which doesn't fit the pattern. And as we can see here, all of these coordinates fit kind of a nice line going down there. So they all are showing a trend. But we've got this point here that's nowhere near that trend at all. And that's what we call an outlier. So we know that these are going up in 2s. So this will be 28. So the x coordinate will be 28. And this will be 19. So our coordinate will be 28, 19 for our outlier. So angles on a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles, but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340. And then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. So for this frequency polygon, what we've got to do is work backwards to work out what the table was that created it. So we're going to just draw a starting of a table, and we're going to have our midpoint first, then our like money spent, our intervals, and then our frequency. So the first midpoint is at 40, and we can see here that that was, just get rid of that, that was between, like that was in this group here. So that is 0, and I'm just going to use m for money, 0 to 80, and the frequency is how high it is, which is 10. The next midpoint is here, so that was going to be 120. And we can see that that's between 80 and 160, and the frequency is 20. And finally, the last midpoint is here, which is obviously 200, and that is between 160 and 240, and the height of it is going to be 7. So we're looking for the probability customer spent less than 160. So that is these two here. Okay, so there are 30 that are less than 160. And how many are there altogether? Well, it's that 10 plus the 20 plus the 7. So it's going to be over 37. So it's 30 over 37. The formula y equals mx plus c includes this m, and the m means the gradient. So if we're looking for something that is parallel to y equals 9x plus 18, we're looking at this number here. And for it to be parallel, it needs to have the same gradient. So we could just write y equals 9x plus or subtract anything. Or we could just write y equals 9x. I'm going to say plus 5. The first thing that we can actually work out for this Venn diagram is this part here. So it says 12 had a cat but not a dog. So the cat but not a dog is showed with this A here. So if 12 had a cat but not a dog, and in total 22 had a cat, we're going to do 22 take away 12, which is 10. So 10 had a cat and a dog. If 16 had a dog, and 10 also had a cat, that means that 6 had a dog. Let's make sure we fill these in. And if overall there were 31 people, and there were 12 who just had a cat, 10 who had a cat and a dog, and 6 who had a dog, that leaves 3 left over. So to answer this question, we've got to first of all work out what transformation it's going to be. And it hasn't changed size, it has changed its way up, and it's obviously going to have been rotated. There's going to be a rotation. And for a rotation, we need to know the angle which it's rotated and where the center of rotation is. Well, it's obviously gone 90 degrees, it's gone a quarter turn, so it's 90 degrees, and it's gone that way, and so that's the same way as a clock goes, so that's a clockwise. And we need to find the center of rotation, so we need to find out where the center of the rotation is. So the way of doing that is just trace out the shape you've got. So trace out A. And it's going to look something like this. And trace it out. Just connect those bottom bits a little bit better. And trace it out. And what you've got to do is you've got to find out where on this page you put your pencil when you rotate it. And so you're just going to rotate it with putting your pencil somewhere. So you want to end up with it looking like this on the tracing paper. And you, just with a bit of trial and error, you'll realize that you can put your pencil here. So your pencil will go at 2, 2 to get from A to B. So our center of rotation is going to be 2, 2. The first thing we can do is work out what the circumference of the full circle would be. Obviously we haven't got a full circle here, but what the circumference of the full circle would be had we got a full circle. So that's going to be pi times the diameter. The diameter is twice as big as the radius, and this 21 centimeters here is the radius of a full circle. So that's going to be pi times 2 lots of 21. Which is going to be 42 times pi, which is going to be 131.946, blah, blah, blah. Now, we don't have a full circle here. We've got to work out what fraction of a circle we have. Well, we obviously have a quarter of a circle. So to find the arc length, which is this part here, it's like a part of a circumference, to find the length of the arc, what we're going to do is just get that circumference and we're just going to divide it by 4. So we're going to get the 131.946, blah, 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 and divide it by 4. When we do that, we get 32.986, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's not what the perimeter is. Perimeter is the total distance around the circle. So we've also got to add on the 2 parts here, the 2 radii here, to get the full distance around the circle. So the perimeter is going to be the arc length plus a radius plus a radius. So that's going to be 32.986 blah 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 plus 21 plus 21, which equals 74.986 blah blah blah. And when we round that to 2 decimal places, we get the answer of 74.986. 9. The word truncated means that we just literally cut off the next number along. So if we imagine this is our number, we just cut it off. So it's not the same as rounding. We just don't change this digit at all. We just cut off the remaining digits. So the smallest number it could be before it was cut off is 79.500000. The largest number it could have been, well, it could have been 79.5999, etc. So that's the largest it could have been. So to do our error interval, well, the smallest it could have been is 79.5, and it could have been 79.5, and we'll call this x. But we're looking at any number that is less than 79.6. So any number that's less than 79.6. If it was 79.6, then when we cut it off, it would show as 79.6. When it's said that y is inversely proportional to x, it means that y changes as 1 over x changes. And to write this in an equation, all we do is we just write y equals k over x. Now k is something we need to find. So what we need to do is find out what a value of y and a value of x are somewhere on the graph that would be formed from this, and we've got that in this question. So we know that when y is 7, then x is going to be 7.9. And what I need to do now is just draw my lines down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just times both sides by 7.9. And so we have k equals, and it'd be 7 times 7.9, which is 55.3. So we know that k is 55.3. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation here, or this formula here. But instead of k, I know that it's going to be 55.3. So our answer is y equals 55.3 over x. There are a few different ways you could answer this question. I'm going to do it with a tree diagram, but you didn't need to draw a tree diagram to answer this question. So we've got our first tree, which is our first bus. And the choices are male and female. And we've got our second kind of branch, I suppose. And it's still male and female. And this is our second bus. So the property of male on a first bus is 9 over 15. And therefore the property of female is 1 minus 9 over 15, which would be 6 over 15. Male on the second bus is 7 over 15. And so female would be 8 over 15, because they need to add up to 1. And it's independent, so these will be the same. And the question is basically asking what is the probability that both will be female. So to have both female, we need to have gone down this line at the start, and then this line again. Okay, so looking at the fractions along the way, it's 6 over 15 and 8 over 15. The word and in probability means times. So whenever you're finding the probability of getting to an outcome, so this outcome would be FF, because they're both female, you are multiplying the fractions that you go across. So it would be 6 over 15 times 8 over 15. So 6 times 8 is 48, and times the bottoms, 15 times 15 is 225. Now you can actually cancel that down. So what you can do is you can divide top and bottom by 4, and that will give you 16. Is it 4? No, you can times top and bottom by 3, and that would be 16 over 75. So either 48 over 225 or 16 over 75. So we're going to start off with 100%. And it says that the card depreciates. That means goes down by, so it goes down by 1.7% every year. So we do 100 take away 1.7, which is 98.3, and that's percent. And we want that as a decimal, or as a multiplier we call it. And so we just divide it by 100 to make it into a decimal, 0.983. And that's our multiplier. And the beautiful thing about a multiplier is we just need the amount of years. Well, it says from 1980 to 1985, so that's going to be 5 years. So it's going to be 5 years. And so what we do is we get the original amount, which was 2,245, and times it by the multiplier 5 times. Now I can't be bothered on my calculator to times it by 0.983 5 times. So what you can do is you can do it to the power of 5, which basically means the same thing. And that gives us 2060.553. And when we round that, that would be £2,060 and 55 pence. So this question is asking us to find the probability of not A and B. So if we look at the, and I'm just going to quickly draw out a similar Venn diagram. So if this is A and this is B, then not A will be everywhere apart from A. So it would be all of this here. And if we do the same thing again, and this time we're interested in where B is, so we've got A and B, then B is this part here. So if you have a look and see which are shaded in both, you can see that this part here is shaded in both. So this part here is not in A and is in B. So it's this 3 here. So the probability is going to be that 3 over the total amount. So all of these added together, which is 25. To add column vectors, all we need to do is add the tops and add the bottoms. So 3 plus 7 is 10, and 4 plus minus, or just 4 minus 5, is minus 1. So our answer is 10 minus 1. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.